The Lord be with you. Lift up your hearts. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. You guys are so Catholic. I love it. How Catholic are you? Do you know this next line that the priest usually says? If you do, say it with me. It is truly right and just, our duty and our salvation, always and everywhere to give you thanks. You guys are good. Those of you who didn't respond to that last line, I'm going to chalk it up to you attend too many of Father Len's masses, and it's hard to pick up what he's saying when he's speaking like 1,500 words a minute. But it is really good to be with you. Always and everywhere. Like it's certainly good to have like a grateful heart, but always and everywhere. You know, I had a friend who sent me this article about this sort of anti-gratitude movement. And it kind of is like, well, why? There were actually some good points in it. And the key really to their argument was that it doesn't seem genuine to be grateful all the time. This idea that we're supposed to kind of walk around like Pollyannas with rose-colored glasses and just kind of be not so genuine about how we're feeling at times. So is it always and everywhere good to be grateful? This is huge if this is kind of what's repeated over and over again when we're about to celebrate the Eucharist, right? Always and everywhere, right? And I think if the author of that article saw it through the lens of faith and not through the lens of positive thinking, there would be good reason to always and everywhere be grateful to God. It is our duty and our salvation. Our salvation. So, why is Thanksgiving there at the heart of it all? And why is it that what we celebrate here is the source and summit of our faith, this sacrifice of thanksgiving? And I think it's something that is good for us to think about so that we don't sort of fall into just positive thinking, but we actually ground our gratitude in reality. Because it begins with the very life of God himself. Right? The Father, he pours himself out totally in love to eternally beget the Son. But how does the Son return that love to the Father? He doesn't eternally beget the Father, right? His love back to the Father takes the character of thanksgiving, an eternal act of thanksgiving. I mean, it pretty much characterizes who the Son is. But not only that, we see it in his own life when he became man and instituted the Eucharist on the night of his Last Supper. Just how grateful he is to the Father. If I knew the next day that I was going to be crucified, the last thing I'd be doing is singing psalms of thanksgiving. But that's what Jesus was doing. He was singing Psalm 113 through 116 with his disciples before going out to the Mount of to Gethsemane. And I just want to give you a few little excerpts of what it was that he was singing to his Father. I love the Lord, for he has heard the cry of my appeal. For he turned his ear to me in the day when I called him. They surrounded me, the snares of death, with the anguish of the tomb. They caught me sorrow and distress. I called on the Lord's name. O Lord, my God, deliver me. How gracious is the Lord and just. Our God has compassion. I will walk in the presence of the Lord in the land of the living. I trusted even when I said, I am sorely afflicted. And when I said in my alarm, no man can be trusted. How can I repay the Lord for his goodness to me? The cup of salvation I will raise. I will call on the Lord's name. My vows to the Lord I will fulfill before all his people. O precious in the eyes of the Lord is the death of his faithful. Your servant, Lord, your servant am I, the son of your handmaid. You have loosened my bonds. A thanksgiving sacrifice I make. I will call on the Lord's name. These are haunting words when you think about the context that Jesus was singing them in. He was ready to face his own crucifixion with a song of thanksgiving. And because he is Jesus, it was a genuine song of thanksgiving. This wasn't positive thinking. In fact, he was very real. You heard some of those lines. How afflicted he was when he realized no one can be trusted. He was real about the snares of death that surrounded him. But he knew that his Father was good. He knew that he works all things for the good of those who love him. He knew the power of his Father to raise him from the dead. And not only to raise him from the dead, but to bring great good from his sacrifice. And so it is our duty and our salvation to have that same lens through which Jesus saw even his coming tragedy, because the Father didn't leave it as a tragedy. Somehow he brought the greatest good out of it. And so we can look at things like the destruction that hurricanes bring and whatever other personal tragedies that people endure with great confidence that our Father is going to see us through and bring great good out of it. That's the mystery of the resurrection. And as he told his disciples on that night, you will see me again. And when you see me, you will be filled with joy, and nothing will take that joy from you. That's the reality we ground our gratitude in. Not positive thinking, but in God, in his life, in his promises, and in his power.